Coca Cola existed in Mexico for over 100 years before it became popular. It became popular in the 1970s when they had the Olympics in Mexico, and the main sponsor of the Mexican Olympics was Coca Cola. And they ran all these commercials about how, like Coca Cola is a part of life. Like it'll unite the world, it'll unite you. And from that point is when like it really exploded. What else is insane is I guess the type of advertisements that you'll see down in Chiapas. So because Chiapas is has a good portion of its indigenous community there, they even have billboards where they're specifically sponsored to the indigenous community because it's written in their language. And even the people who are drinking Coke, it's people dressed in like their traditional indigenous garb.
What's up, everyone, and welcome back to school. But don't worry, everything is cool. I'm your host, Jalissa, and of course, I am here with the boys, Steve and Brandon. Say what's up, you guys.
What's up?
How y'all doing today?
Brandon, why don't you go ahead and start off? Tell me how you're doing. How's your day?
I'm doing well. Thank you for asking. How are you guys doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Julie, you're back on the show. I mean, you were here for the guest last week, but we didn't get time to catch up. Go ahead and tell me, what are your thoughts on the Drake leaks?
The Drake leaks? I didn't even know that there was like his leaks happened until all my friends were like talking about it. Like so I haven't seen them. So I've only heard about them. What's interesting about them?
She's pretending.
I think his I know you're pretending.
I
think track
them.
2
I haven't seen
is
them.
wait, the leaks, like the music leaks, right?
Wait, what?
The Drake leaks? That's what you mean? Like the music leaks?
Wait, what?
I haven't seen any leaks.
I'm genuinely confused now.
I'm just kidding. I'm talking about his schlong.
His
that apparently
I've only heard about it.
Do you think it's real? I have this conspiracy theory that I feel like
It's AI.
no, I think
It's AI.
no. I think Drake hired an actor.
Oh,
What was that?
embarrassing.
That was my phone.
It's okay. That happened to me too.
Anita
when I was there.
McSween.
I have this conspiracy that Drake hired a lookalike and who has like a big schlong and then posted that in order to get his relevancy and respect.
Interesting.
Would you do that if you had the money? Would you get a dick double?
You could probably just use AI now. My segment, tease.
Wait, so I'm not gonna go into it then because I was gonna mention something else about AI. I don't know. I mean,
But I don't know.
it's podcaster related. I don't know if you heard.
Yeah, I don't know.
You don't know.
If you would do like a fake thing. I'm still talking about the fake thing.
I feel like for women it's different. What can you guys do? Get like a boob double? Like, oh no, these leaks of me, and it's like
boob double.
But I feel like you can see the boobs. You can't see. Anyways, I'm getting a little sidetracked. What else has been going on in the news? So Super Bowl happened.
That happened. Oh yeah, it did happen. And then people think Timothee Chalamet's fat.
He's fat.
Have you guys haven't seen
He
that?
looks like a
No,
twin.
I haven't seen that. I thought Timothee
He's
Chalamet
skinny.
like
He's a
He
skinny
is skinny.
queen.
Well, I've seen a bunch of like memes, not memes, just people on TikTok being like, Timothee Chalamet is experiencing twink death. He's fat now. And so I looked like, oh, did he gain weight for a role or something? He looks exactly the same to me. Like maybe just a little, like, but like healthy. Like he just looks normal. And then in the picture, he's wearing like skinny jeans. So I'm like, what are you guys talking about?
What do you think is like the man stereotype? You know how there's body standards for women? What's like the male body standard? What would you
the
say?
male body standard?
Yeah, like as a man, what would you say most media thinks you are? I would say it's like the
Tall?
dad bod.
Tall? Just kidding.
I guess that's true. Yeah. As a short king myself, that is true. I am not tall. But when I stand on my money, I'm 6 feet, right? No, I'm just kidding. I literally have like $2 in my wallet.
Good one.
No, that's crazy. Timothee Chalamet, the people think that he's fat.
Yeah.
But where did it like come from?
He was doing press for like Dune too. And then he doesn't, you know how there's always those pictures from when he was in Call Me By Your Name? Because then people would like stitch it with his interview for Call Me By Your Name. I think it was that movie or Beautiful Boy, one of those where the director told him he had to lose like 15 pounds. And he was like, what? Like, I don't even know how I can possibly lose any more weight,
Yeah.
you know? And then so I guess he gained back that. And so now he just looks skinny instead of like,
He looks like a
malnourished.
normal person.
he looks skinny
He
instead
doesn't
of
look
malnourished.
bony. He doesn't look
No,
bony.
yeah, he
and
doesn't
shit?
have the like, you know how he's
Oh, like
famous for his
the-
sunken like cheeks? He doesn't really have that as much anymore. I mean, he's still like skinny, but yeah, I don't know.
Do you
That's
think
crazy.
Do you think it's as equal to be body shamed about being skinny as it is to be body shamed about being fat?
Is it equal?
Yeah, like do you think it's as bad?
I think you shouldn't shame anybody for the way they look.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I feel like it all just comes down to like, then what are you guys happy about? Like, at least in like body stuff, because it's like he's
I
not
guess they
getting
want
fat,
you to be
but then
normal,
he's not too
like
skinny.
in the middle.
But what's like the middle though? Like,
I guess thick. I'm not really sure. I mean, either way, beauty standards are bullshit. Because I mean, they change.
I think.
but I'm also
go ahead.
no, because I was just gonna say like the other thing to that is just like some people have like eating disorders, you know.
Yeah.
Like some people actually have like
Yeah.
that type of health, or some people are like anorexic or anemic, and like there's just certain things that their body just like can't do, you know.
Yeah.
To like help them. I don't know.
Yeah, like some bodies process food better than others. I remember that was a discussion we had when Izzy was on the pod, I think last year. He talked about how when he was in college, he was studying kinesiology, and he brought up how it's about your blood type, about how certain blood types are better at processing like bread and food and can stay skinny, while other blood types will literally like avoid carbs and anything that's unhealthy and somehow still gain a lot of weight. So it doesn't show you that like at least body mass, body fat isn't directly correlated to health.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Isn't it also metabolism?
Yeah, metabolism,
right?
yeah.
Well, I guess the Timothee shot. I mean, I know a lot of people dislike him for some reason now. I don't know what he did.
Yeah.
But you know how people just randomly be hating on celebrities for some reason?
I think because he's dating.
Oh, Kylie One of
Jenner?
them? Yeah,
Yeah.
whatever. Who cares? But I guess for me, it's just like, I mean, that's kind of low. Like, to just be like, you're fat and ugly now. It's like, that's kind of low.
Yeah, that too, because I'm like, they're calling him fat, and it's like he's not fat. Like, he's still very like skinny. So then imagine, you know, like people who
actually are slightly overweight.
Yeah, and
overweight,
like how more they're like,
damn, like I gotta look less than Timothee Chalamet.
Yeah.
You know,
like I feel like that's very like that hurts a lot of like your self-esteem, you know. Like if you're already like, oh, like I'm already confident in myself, but then you're hearing people say like, oh, he's fat when he's like not. Like he gained like a little bit, but like that's it, right? And it's like to people who are, you know, like trying to grow their confidence and like I'm okay with like my body. I feel like that makes them even more be like, so like people would like hate even more like the way that I look.
Well, I guess it's also kind of what's the word? When I saw the pictures of what he was looking like, I literally was like, I can't tell the difference. But genuinely, I could not tell what the difference was between when he looked before and until people were very actively like, see, like his cheekbones are not as sunken in. So I was like, that's a huge reach to be calling this guy fat, no?
Yeah.
Was he also a lot younger?
Yeah, because I think it was part of because I think they asked him and Zendaya like, oh, what's it like kissing? And he says something like, I'm pushing 30, like I'm pretty like mature about it. It's whatever's. So I was like, well, he's probably almost 30 too. Yeah. He's obviously not gonna look like a little boy anymore.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's that damn phone, bro. It's that damn phone. I'm that age to be like, it's that damn phone. Yeah. What I mean by that is that when you're on social media, I think you get portrayed like a lot of images of what you should look like, and a lot of that is like, you know, anti-aging. Like everybody looks good, everybody looks fit, everybody looks a certain way, and I feel like it's now made being a normal human and aging normally seem like, oh no, you're actually aging badly. When in reality, you're just aging like a human should.
Yeah.
Does this have anything to do with the Ozempic craze? Have you guys heard about that?
What is it?
I don't know.
Is that the?
It's that diet pill, right?
Yeah, yeah.
It's supposed to keep your weight down.
Well, it's not technically a diet pill.
Oh, educate me, please.
It's meant for people who have diabetes.
Yeah.
Oh, to keep their blood sugar down.
Yeah, but that's like a side effect.
But people take it to lose weight.
And you know, there's actually a shortage, and it's also increasing the cost of people who actually need it. Yeah. So it's like a super controversial, like argument, just because people who don't need it are using it, and it makes people who actually need it to like live.
Yeah. Well, because some people are using it to like lose the weight, and then it's taken away from the people who have like diabetes.
A lot of celebrities take it, right?
Yeah.
Well, interesting.
What was her name? I feel like I saw it on Twitter. It was the girl that was like.
A lot of people take it, bro. I don't even know. You could say any name.
She's like an Osborne, I think.
An Osborne.
I forgot her name.
Oh, you
like
mean an Olsen twin?
No, she's the one that was like, oh, what are you gonna like? She was the one on The View that was like, "Oh, what are you gonna do when like you run out of
that
all the
chick?
Mexicans?" Yeah,
Really?
I think she
Ozempic?
takes it. I think she
She
made a
takes it?
comment either that because I saw it on Twitter. It was either like she made a comment on it, or like they just put her picture under like the whole thing about like
Yeah.
people taking the pill or some shit.
She's like the queen of problematic takes.
She's funny.
But I guess moving on into the meat of our show. I always say that. Is that
What do you mean?
is that call for pause?
What do you mean?
You know, the meat of our show? Like,
I don't think so.
well, I hope you guys let me slide on that. Well, the first thing I want to talk about is actually a topic that I've been kind of like working on for a while, and I haven't gotten around to talk about it just because I feel like I haven't been able to properly collect my thoughts, but now I can. I'm really interested to hear what you guys say, like above everything else. I'm really interested to hear any takes you guys have. So here we go. Coca Cola is killing Mexico, or at least that's what it seems like. Mexico drinks more Coca Cola per capita than any other country in the world. In Chiapas, Mexico, of the top 10 most common causes of death, the top 4 are related to excessive sugar consumption. So those are 1, ischemic. How do you say this? Ischemic?
Your fingers covering it.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, maybe ischemic. Yeah.
Ischemic heart disease. Number 2 is chronic
Ischemic?
kidney disease. Number 3 is diabetes, and number 4 is cirrhosis. In some places in Mexico, it's even cheaper to buy Coke than buy bottled water. Coke has even made its way into the indigenous community's religion and spiritual rituals. So how did this happen? In Chiapas, Mexico, since 1974, and San Cristobal, there has been a Coca-Cola bottling plant that has extracted over 1 million liters per day from the groundwater in that area. The plant has complete control of that reservoir, not only causing an artificial water shortage, but creating a win-win scenario for the company. As the most popular bottled water is Ciel. Do you remember Ciel? Ciel. It's like this blue bottle, and it's spelled Ciel.
I think so.
Yeah.
Sounds
And
familiar.
that's Coke's owned.
Yeah, and yeah, it's a win-win scenario for the company, as the most popular bottled water is Ciel, which is also owned by Coca-Cola. And it's crazy because the more I deep dive into it, the more I saw like ground journalism reporters go to Chiapas, and you really see that they go into the fridges, and of all the fridges, there's like 10 rows of just Coca-Cola drinks and 2 rows of water. And then in Chiapas too, there's like a water shortage. So it's a lot of factors. It's on top of Coca-Cola itself owning the biggest reservoir there, but it's also because of climate change and because there's not a lot of infrastructure. Like there's not a lot of like sewage systems in actual Chiapas. So that makes for clean water to be really hard to come by. So you either have to buy it from the trucks that give water. Have you ever seen that? Or you have to drink from the faucet. All their water has chlorine in it because it's supposed to prevent disease. But it's obviously it tastes like swimming pool water, and it's also in the long term not really good for your health. It's crazy too because the more I deep dive, the more I really realize that it's deeper than just like, oh, like it's like an educational problem, like people don't know about it. From 1975 to 1979, the managing director of Coca-Cola Company was this guy named Vicente Fox. And you know who else Vicente Fox, what other position Vicente Fox had? He was also the president of Mexico between 2000 and 2006.
Damn.
Oh.
Yeah, he had that position, and there's an interview of him where he says that the people who wanted him to get into politics was actually Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola was sponsoring him when he was already the CEO of Coca-Cola Mexico.
Yeah.
They were like, you should get into politics, and so they paid the way for him to get into politics. And he was the president of the United States of Mexico, well, United Mexican States, right, from 2000 to 2006. So it goes deep, bro. It goes really fucking deep. And it's crazy because there's clips, too, of, like... so Chiapas is 30%, like, indigenous communities. I don't know if you guys know that. And most of them believe that Coca-Cola is, like, a healing property. That it, like, heals your soul and that it heals you from disease. And it's kind of, like, saddening because you see, like, this like, older indigenous woman doing this ritual. And so she has like this traditional drink. I forgot what it was, but it's like in this cup, it has this traditional drink. And then in the other cup, it has Coca-Cola. It even has the symbol of Coca-Cola. And she's like doing in her native language, she's doing like these rituals. And she's like to heal the mind, the body, and what is it? The mind, the body, and
The soul?
I think the soul, yeah. And he gives it to this older like indigenous guy because he's sick. and but like she has no idea that that's exactly what's making him sick. Is that it's the
Coke?
yeah, it's all the coke. I think right now diabetes is the second leading cause of death in Mexico. So it's like a big problem. And then nowhere else in the world does a country drink more Coca Cola than they do in Mexico. Isn't that crazy? Well, because I related to my own experience. Then they talk about it in this documentary that I was watching that it wasn't always like this. Coca Cola existed in Mexico for over 100 years before it became popular. It became popular in the 1970s when they had the Olympics in Mexico, and the main sponsor of the Mexican Olympics was Coca Cola. And they ran all these commercials about how, like Coca Cola is a part of life, like it'll unite the world, it'll unite you. And from that point is when like it really exploded. What else is insane is I guess the type of advertisements that you'll see down in Chiapas. So because Chiapas is has a good portion of its indigenous community there, they even have billboards where they're specifically sponsored to the indigenous community because it's written in their language. And even the people who are drinking Coke, it's people dressed in like their traditional indigenous garb. Like it's insane because Coca-Cola actually released a commercial a few years ago where it's literally a colonial commercial. So it's these tourists, they're all white, and they show up to Chiapas, and then they meet the indigenous people who are there, and then they save the day, they save their lives by introducing them to Coke, and it shows all the indigenous people all happy and drinking the Coca-Cola.
Whoa.
Yeah.
It's trippy.
It's deep, bro. It's really deep. Well, because I mean, as somebody who's visited Mexico and at least knows a good amount of Mexico, I think it's trippy to think that on top of the corruption you normally hear, is that even big business, like something as common as Coca-Cola, is taking advantage of this situation. Because it's not something, yes, they're causing an artificial shortage there, but on top of that, they're also just taking advantage of poor circumstance. Like they don't have any working infrastructure, or they're dealing with climate change. And I think that's what's really insane is that Coca-Cola actually took it to court because people were protesting them and saying, Coca-Cola is taking advantage of this community, and since they own the reservoir, this peace group was trying to get their license revoked, so that way the Mexican government could tell them to fuck off. And Coca-Cola basically explained like, well, we're not the reason why it's a water shortage. That's just natural things in the world, but it doesn't at all like mean that they're not taking advantage of the situation because of the propaganda that they put out, and because of the fact that they even like have a monopoly over the water. Because in Mexico, and specifically people who went down there and did like ground journalism, they checked a lot of fridges. I wouldn't say all, but they checked a lot of fridges, and of those fridges, the few little sections that did sell water, it was Ciel, right? It was Ciel. It was all a Coca-Cola company. So they not only profit by making people drink Coca-Cola, but they also profit by then if people want to do the alternative, it's a win-win scenario for them. But yeah, that's why I call it like Coca-Cola is literally killing Mexico, or at least that's what it seems.
Yeah.
Interesting. That's scary.
That's crazy. Because I didn't know that it was like affecting, I guess, like the indigenous community. And I just think it's crazier that it's like implemented in like their rituals now.
Yeah.
Where it's like, I don't know if you said it, but I'm kind of like, how did that kind of like start, like what kind of like convinced them to kind of like add it to their ritual, I just think that's crazy.
I think it's just the propaganda. If you really look at the
really
billboards.
good marketing.
Yeah. It basically says that Coca-Cola is a way of life. Well, I think in one of the documentaries, they break it down really, really well, where it says, if you're somebody who lives in Chiapas and you're somebody who maybe doesn't have the best funds, and you go after a hot day or you've been working for a long time, your choices of something to drink are either water that has chlorine, water that's almost the same as expensive as regular soda, water that you have to wait for because it's being pulled in by trucks, or a delicious sugary drink that's the cheapest you can find. And you know what else is crazy? Coca-Cola offers deals where the more Coca-Cola you buy, the cheaper it becomes. So they have they have this one specific practice where if you bring the bottle back, they'll just refill it with Coca Cola, and it'll be cheaper than actually buying a new bottle, and that's where it's cheaper than actually buying a bottle of water. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Well, I think it's like dystopian, bro. Because that's literally what people in the United States are worried about, right? Is that, I don't know, a company like, I don't know, fucking Apple controls the entire market and controls your way of living. And even when you think you're doing the alternative choice, no, they own those things too.
Yeah. I think it's even more the fact that the guy who got elected president
was the CEO.
Yeah, was the CEO of Coca Cola. And I think that's why even more, like, there was a little more control of, like, having that one specific business kind of take control of them. Because, I mean, he was president, you know?
Well, when I heard about it, well, I'd only seen briefly people mention about it. I thought it was going to be more of like, because you know how they say that about tortillas down there? That's also a big, because it's carby. I thought it was going to be more like that, like it was kind of just a health kind of crisis type thing.
Yeah, like lack of like education,
Maybe
which kind of is.
Maybe that, or just in general, like a lack of awareness about the seriousness of what you put in your body. Because that happens here a lot, like when they did Super Size Me for McDonald's and stuff like that. But I didn't know that it was like
the government.
It was a government scheme. Like there's monopolies going down. Like it's a marketing ploy, and it bled into the indigenous peoples. Whoa. Yeah. I didn't know that.
Even thinking about the water, because you know how they own Dasani, and they're like, they like add something into the water so that you can buy more water or some shit like that.
Oh, they flavor. Is that true?
I don't know. People say it is that, like, people have tested it. You know how you can test like the
pH,
the pH and stuff. That it's pretty, like, I forget what side it is, but basically so that like they can market for you to, like, I guess, buy more water.
Is Ciel the Mexican version of Dasani?
That's what I was thinking. I was like,
I'm pretty sure. There's been I know I've seen the blue version, and then do you remember the like light pink version?
I think
because
so.
Yeah, you know what is interesting is that you spend a lot of the time in obviously like the town while I went to the city, and it's true, bro. If you go to the city, Coca Cola is everywhere. It's littered throughout.
Well, even here, right? I feel like I don't know where it comes from, but everybody says Mexican Coke is better, you know, like because it's real cane sugar. It's all the bottled Mexican Coke. That's the real Coke, you know. So it gets across the border over here, where there's the propaganda reaches all the way over here, you know.
Yeah, well, reaching the personal experience too. I remember growing up in Mexico, and people would drink soda for breakfast. Do you remember that?
I remember they would drink soda, not Coke though.
But they would drink soda for
breakfast. They would drink soda though.
Yeah.
Whoa.
But it also sometimes felt like the soda was a little more of like a, like, because it at one point it did get expensive, so like people would like kind of treat it as a luxury kind of thing, but people would still drink it a lot for sure. In Mexico, they would drink a lot of soda.
I remember my parents actually telling me that if you went to somebody's house, it was like almost kind of disrespectful to say no to the Coke and ask for water, not because like obviously they love soda that much, but more in the sense of like Coke, like my sister said, is such a luxury or is such like a praised thing that it's like an offering of like, this is something that's very.
It's like if I offered you a shot of like my prized alcohol.
Yeah, in that like, sense. And you're like, no, like, do you have water? And they'd be like, water?
Yeah.
I'm offering you this delicious sugary drink, and you're going to disrespect me by asking for water. I remember my dad telling me that because it was true. I remember I was never really like a super big soda person. I mean, I drank soda when I was a kid because I was a kid, but I remember always being like, can I get milk?
Well, I guess my question is, because I've never been to Mexico, and I knew, you know, Coke was popular in Mexico, but I guess hearing the perspective that it's kind of like, I don't know if I'm wrong or right, but that it's kind of intrinsic to the culture down there at this point. Do you think that makes it like
difficult
harder or like a
no?
like,
yeah. I think so. I can definitely see if you bring this up to some people, it could be like a form of backlash. Just because with anything, if it's I think about the alcohol consumption too, in terms of like our culture specifically, you know, like I don't know if this is specifically a Mexican thing, so I'll just say from my experience as a Mexican American, is that alcohol is very embedded in a lot of cultural practices this isn't like a dig at them, or I don't think it's something negative, because I think it's something that just is in the culture. But I think in that sense, if you were, I've known that when you bring that up to people, some people do get offended, and they're like, "This is just us. This is just how we are." And I'm sure I can relate that to down in Mexico. If you do bring that up of like, the Coca-Cola is causing this and that, it's one thing to be aware, but it's another thing to do something about it. And that's what some of the documentaries were showing. Because I watched a lot of things about this, because it's a very prevalent issue and it's very timely. People are doing ground journalism even as often as this year. And they talk to people. And it's cool because the guy doesn't judge them. He just asks them straight up, like, how much Coca-Cola would you say you drink in a day? Some guy says a liter, like a whole liter. A lot of kids say like, oh, at least like 2 bottles a day. And either way, nobody ever says zero. Like, there's not a single. He interviews almost 12 people. Nobody says zero. They says that they finish at least minimum 2 bottles. Some going as far as like a liter. And then he brings them, like, do you know that this causes this and that? And one of the guys is like, yeah, I've seen, like, I know on the internet there's videos about how this causes this and that. And it's like, but I've never really felt it, and it tastes good, so I just drink it.
Yeah.
And then he pushes them a little bit further into their thinking, and he asks them, how many people do you know in your family who have diabetes? And almost every single person mentions somebody in their family who has diabetes. There isn't a single person who says that they don't know somebody who has diabetes. Almost every single person says, like, oh, I know one, my mom, my aunt, my sister, somebody has diabetes in their family. So it's one, like, I guess because I bring it up because I think it's so easy to just simply blame the people of Mexico. It's just to be like, this is their fault. They're being ignorant. They're doing this to themselves. And I don't think that's true. I think that if you get fed enough this lie, you eventually start to believe it. And it's not your fault for believing in it if the people who are in power seem to really, really push for you to believe in it. You know, like the fact that the fact that the president used to be CEO of Coca Cola, and it only shows you that there's obvious bias towards the law and has given the bottling company some passage. I feel like the full blame goes on them because they're the ones who are enabling that. They're the ones who continuously see these problems that people are dying of all these diseases, and they don't do anything about it. And obviously the most obvious answer, which is always the answer for anything, is because it just brings in money. Yeah. Obviously, of everything that we just said about how people drink Coca-Cola basically every day and they finish 2 bottles, what companies see is that that's just money. Think about how much money just Mexico alone brings to Coca-Cola. They're the country that drinks it the most out of any other place in the world. I don't think Coca-Cola is just magically going to be like, oh no, like we care about these people. Like we want them to feel good. Obviously, they're going to continue to follow that tradition. The guy who does that documentary says that there's evidence to suggest that Coca-Cola in Mexico wants to expand to most of Latin America. So it's not even an issue that is like isolated, because that's another thing that I think people are very easy to fall into. It's like, well, that's happening over there, so why do I care?
But it's trying to spread. Yeah,
but it could easily spread to other places in Latin America and beyond Latin America, the world. I just think that that's one single company, and when I think of things that people are really afraid of, right? That sponsors and big company is going to take over the world. This is one instance where it's already happening.
Yeah. It kind of reminds me of tobacco, like big tobacco, about how like all their marketing campaigns and how it was prompted as like it's healthy, doctors recommended, even though they knew for a long time that it was really bad for you. And then it caused a bunch of cancer and stuff. I guess maybe like, well, because everybody knows that sugar is really bad for you, obviously in excess, right? So it kind of reminds me of that, and just I guess in a different route where I guess maybe in America it was like, oh, it's like a health thing. Like everybody has a cigarette. From what you're telling me down there, it's become kind of like a cultural thing. Where it's like, come on, it's the culture. Everybody has a Coke, you know? Yeah. But if you're saying, you know, diabetes is a huge problem down there, kind of reminds me of that. Yeah. But side note, you know how you said you want that, not you, how Coke wanted to like expand into other countries? Yeah. Wasn't Cristiano Ronaldo a big reason why it kind of stifled them? Because I think it was Coke or if it was Pepsi, where he's like having like a press conference and he has like a Coke in front of him and he's like, what is this? I don't want this. I want water. And it lost them like a significant amount of money.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Let me fact check what it was.
I've never heard of that.
You never
it's,
heard of
it's
that?
just like a brief thing. It's not like he does this like crazy like, oh, I don't like Coke. He just says like, oh, I don't want it. I just
You were
don't want
right.
it. Yeah.
But it was
It
like
is
an
Coca-Cola.
actual. It was
Yeah,
an
it-
actual like
Yeah,
interview that they
yeah,
were
well,
having
because
with
it was
him?
post a game, and then they have like a Coke in front of him, and he's like, why'd you give me this? I don't want it. Give me some water.
Yeah, well,
Because
he's an
obviously he's an
athlete.
athlete. He can't drink
Mhm.
that shit. And it lost him like $1 billion or something like that.
Yeah, it lost them $4 billion.
Damn.
And it's like half a second. He's not like, oh, fuck Coke.
I thought it was like a commercial.
No.
No, it's like a post game interview. They're just gonna interview him about the game or anything. You know, on NBA they do
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
It's the same exact thing.
Do you
And
think
Yeah.
in the future, maybe not in like the near future, but maybe when our kids are around, do you think there's gonna be ads like the tobacco ads where it's like, don't eat too much sugar, like it's really bad for you?
I think so. In the study that I was researching for this, people say that sugar is as addictive as Coke is. And I don't mean the drink, if you know what I mean.
Oh yeah. As white powder. That stuff.
Yeah, the
Really?
white
Well, because
powder.
people said that it used to be, you know, or was that real or no?
Oh, that
Yeah,
Coke used to be in Coca Cola. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Oh, I
That's why
thought
it
that.
was so
yeah.
addicting.
But isn't that like in the 1800s where that shit was in everything? They had lead and everything too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was different times. But I mean, the way that people seem to be addicted to it seems as if they're taking actual Coke from
Yeah.
the fucking soda.
Yeah.
Well, because sugar is really addictive, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think it's the most addictive drug that humanity has ever faced. Everybody is addicted to sugar.
I remember seeing this. I don't know what it was, but it was a medium of information. And they were explaining why, like junk food is really addicting. It's because in nature, sugar, like and all sodium and that kind of stuff is really, really hard to find, like in nature. So when the body finds it so readily available, the body's natural instinct is like, oh my God, like we're never gonna find that again. Like you should eat that. But obviously, because we're people and we can manufacture whatever we want, it's kind of like a negative feedback loop. But like to an animal, right? An animal is never really gonna stumble across like that amount of sugar, you know?
Yeah, it reminds me. Sometimes I think about the natural world and I think about how innocent, at least that concept is that because we were just animals who were starving and we barely got these luxuries, we were like, oh my God, now we can make 1 million luxuries, right?
Yeah.
And it starts off so innocent because we're like these animals on this planet. Like if you think of a dog, right? Imagine if a dog was able to make 1 million dog bones, milk bones, right? He would.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But obviously, when you make that, then you're face to face with consequences to your actions, and then also people just take advantage, like
Yeah.
Coca Cola.
Yeah.
I also think a lot of it is the fact that Coca-Cola kind of restricts them from actually getting access to water, you know?
Because they own the reservoir.
Yeah, because they like own that, and I think that's why even more they are the problem, because they're affecting like these people from like just getting natural resources of just like water, you know, like
Reminds me of the movie Chinatown. Isn't that like a big plot? If you own the water, you control the people.
Yeah.
Or is that Rango?
No, I think that both probably.
Yeah.
Both probably. Both critically.
Rango is pretty good.
Critically.
Rango's
Critically
what?
acclaimed.
Rango's good, and it's a parody kind
Which
of.
one?
of Chinatown.
Which one's Rango?
The one with the
chameleon?
lizard.
The chameleon.
Oh,
and
yeah.
it's Johnny Depp.
My
And he's
bad.
like a cowboy.
He said the lizard.
My bad.
It's pretty good.
I've never seen it, honestly. But I guess, yeah, just
I
like
always
ending my
I always
segment.
confuse that and what was the other one? Rango, Django.
Oh,
No.
the Django.
Oh,
Yeah.
to Django. I think it came out like around the same time, too.
Did they?
Huh? Am I tripping?
I don't know.
Anyways, yeah, just closing off my segment. Yeah, I just wanted to let you guys know. So if you're a proud if you're a proud Coca-Cola enjoyer, be ashamed of yourself. No, I'm just kidding.
Bruh.
You enjoy what you enjoy, but you should know, you should be aware. These are the facts. Do with them what you will. Julie,
Damn.
what did you? Oh wait, no, Brandon, it's
No,
you, right?
Brandon.
Sorry.
That's crazy.
I got the Coca-Cola on my mind.
We know who his favorite is.
If you
No.
ever blow up, if you ever see that, well, actually, I'm not gonna say that. I was about to say something that was gonna incriminate me because I don't have a passport, so I can't do anything.
Oh, interesting. So what I was gonna bring, I teased it earlier regarding AI. I'm sure you guys have seen it by now, right? And everybody watching has probably seen it by now. They released these new AI videos, artificial videos, and they're pretty, in my opinion, almost indistinguishable from like real life videos. They show one of like dogs playing in snow, and I couldn't believe that was fake. They looked really real.
I
Have
know.
you seen it?
No.
No,
You haven't
it, though, right?
seen them?
Mm-mm. I've seen people talk about them. I just don't click the videos.
You honestly might have seen it and not known, because
Because-
there's a
Because they
lot of
look that real.
Yeah.
Well, cause maybe because there was one. It's I think like a couple like walking down the street or something like that. And
Yeah.
I was like, bro, this looks so computerized. Like I saw it and I was like, this is like GTA or some shit.
Yeah, some of them kind of, but there's a couple. Well, because obviously the AI company shows the best of the best. So it shows there's one with the dog, there's one like a car commercial, and then there's one of this model walking through like the street. And then it tells you the prompts of like what they input. And then a bunch of people were comparing, like I think it was literally last year, right, where they had
Oh yeah, The
and
Rock
it's-
eating a pebble. Have
The
you seen
Rock
that?
eating a pebble, and then Will Smith eating
Spaghetti.
and it looks all like gross and confusing. But now it looks almost indistinguishable from real life, at least in my opinion.
I agree.
I've even seen, there's these other podcast guys. They're always like, "Bro, did you hear?" And it's
Oh, I know who you're talking about.
I saw an AI of them.
Really?
Yeah, and I literally got like 70% through the video before I was like, "Is this AI?" And I looked at the comments. Everybody's like, "This AI got me," because the video was like, "Bro, did you hear about that guy, Outdoor Boys? You know that guy who takes his kids camping?" And they're like, "Did you hear he got abducted?" And I was like, "Really? He got abducted?" And I was like, "This sounds funny. Like something seems wrong about this." And then I was like, "Is this fucking AI?" And then the whole comments were like, "This is AI. This is really crazy," because it looks really good and it sounds really good too. But I guess moving on, I kind of was, I guess, interested in that aspect of the AI where it was showing, stuff that was indistinguishable from real life. And a lot of people, I guess, online were talking about that too. Like people were talking about how now they kind of feel funny about showing themselves online, about how it's like they argue that maybe they don't really feel safe now. And if you think that's fear mongering, I would argue it's not, because a lot of people have pulled up a lot of like real life cases. And there's this little girl who she was in primary school. She took her own life because some boys in her school made fake AI porn of her.
I heard about that.
Yeah, so that's already happening. And then we talked about it on the Patreon about Taylor Swift, how that happened. And then even the girl who does the podcast, Bobby.
Yeah,
I
that's
don't
what I was gonna mention earlier.
I don't know how to say her last
Bobby
name.
Eltoff.
I don't know how to say her last name.
Everybody knows
I
her.
don't know her last name.
Yeah,
But you know
Yeah,
of her,
yeah.
right? Yeah, porn came out of her. That's AI, right?
I heard about that too.
Yeah,
That one was so fake. I can't believe people thought that shit was real.
yeah. But that
never saw
happened.
It just comes up on Twitter.
I saw it. I saw the headline, but then Twitter refreshed.
Yeah.
You almost saw it, and then
Yeah,
it
I was gonna
gone.
read about it.
It was blurred.
But I guess that started like getting me thinking, because I was like, man, this is gonna take this. I guess I don't know about you guys, but my association with AI, and at least maybe this comes from the movies, was that AI was gonna be more of a science-based threat, or a militaristic based threat. And I'm not saying it won't ever get there, but I'm saying, like, when I thought of AI before this ever came out, I never really saw it as being something that would threaten the art world. But to me, the most I've seen of AI currently has been primarily directed at the art world. I mean, we talked about it maybe a few months ago now that Loki had a intro that was 100% AI. And so I really started thinking, because I was like, man, this is going to take a lot of people's jobs. It's going to take a lot of, like, think about, like, in movies, right? You could probably make an entire background scene of fake actors who aren't real, because those videos look really good. And then I was also thinking about when they have this woman I mentioned earlier, right? It's this woman walking through the street. Like, I guess it's supposed to be like a modeling commercial. And then they didn't make a deal out of it in the thing, but I noticed the woman was of Asian descent, at least the model that they made. And so I was like, is that going to damage, like, representation? Like, is it going to take away, like, opportunities for people of color, because an AI company can just generate a fake person of color?
Yeah.
And did you know that's already happened?
Really?
Yeah, last year that already happened. Levi's did it. They created an advertisement with a woman of color, and she's modeling their like new set, and she's not real. She's 100% AI.
Damn.
And this happened in 2023 of last year. Yeah, it already
Wow.
happened. And now that it's video, you can probably make someone walking in your clothes too. But I don't know. What do you guys think about that?
I just think that's crazy with the whole, like, I guess for, like, people of color, Because I'm like, one is that like that, right? People not getting booked. But then the other is also doing kind of like the fake inclusivity
Yeah.
of like, oh, like we are inclusive because like, look at this, we have this
Yeah.
model, but it's not even real. Like they're
Yeah.
just trying to do that because they know that that's what will sell. Like they're marketing that they're inclusive. So then people are like, oh yeah, look, they're being inclusive. They're doing these things. And it's like, it's not even real.
No, exactly. I guess for me, what I noticed was like, that's the extent a company will go to be inclusive without being inclusive.
Yeah.
They'd rather make a fake person of color wear their clothes than pay a real person of color to wear their clothes. And this happened, and I'm surprised it didn't get more backlash because I heard about this literally like a couple days ago in my research because I thought maybe like, oh, I'm so original. I thought of this, I guess not. But they got some backlash because obviously, right?
Yeah.
People were saying like that's fake inclusivity, like you're just pretending to be that, and Levi's response was they were just trying to make more body inclusive avatars. If you look at the avatar, she's still skinny, like she's not even that. And their defense was like, oh well, we used an AI company that was black owned. So
what?
Yeah, so the denim, this is the quote that I found from the article. The denim wear brand came under scrutiny this week after it announced a partnership with La La Land AI to use AI generated models with more diverse skin tones and body types. La La Land AI is a black owned AI company set up in 2019. So
it's good. You know what I just thinking about is that when everybody was first thinking about that in one day humanity would have robots and artificial intelligence, we thought that the jobs that they would take were automated jobs.
yeah,
But yet we lived in such a fucked up dystopian society where the AIs are the ones taking the artistic jobs and humans are stuck doing the automation.
yeah,
Like Amazon warehouse and all that other bullshit. Yet we're giving the jobs to fucking AIs.
yeah,
Like I think that's what pisses me off about Levi's. Obviously the inclusion thing too. But that's what pisses me off too, is that you're telling me as an executive, you really don't see the repercussions of what it is. Like you want people to live and have these fucking boring dead end jobs that literally suck the soul out of you.
yeah. Well, I guess for me too, like you said, I was very, like I said, the connotation I think and most people have with AI is that it was never, just nobody ever really thought that it was going to come for art, or it was never going to come for that medium of stuff, or medium of expressions, I should say, like modeling. Like I could never have fathomed that a company would in its, origins create like, oh, you can just make like a fake model and you don't have to pay them, or like go to think about Marvel came under scrutiny, right? About how they're overworking the people who make the CGI. I forget the actual title and other actual names. I'm sorry. But think about that. With the prompts, I mean, the stuff that you could show, that was 1 year of development. And even me, I couldn't tell some of them apart. I know a lot of people were like, oh, it looks like video games. I mean, I don't know. It still looks pretty real to me. Mm-hmm. So think about another year of development, a giant company like Disney behind it now saying like, oh, we'll develop our own and we don't need any more people doing the CGI for us. We can just get a guy to put in the prompt and no more jobs for you guys.
Yeah. I mean, did you see the NBA's AI?
Yeah. Did you see that?
Did you see that?
The
NBAI. Have you heard about it?
Didn't.
It's basically Adam Silver, who is the head commissioner of the NBA. He at I don't even know what to call it, viewing party, some event.
Yeah.
He unveiled that the NBA now has AI, where you can ask your AI like, "Oh, animate this game in the style of Spider-Verse."
Oh yeah.
And then they have the entire game live as it's going on, be animated as if it was in Spider-Verse with the camera cuts, the angles, the flashy animation.
It looks pretty good.
I saw that, and I remember I think the people who created Spider-Verse were like, they didn't even ask us for like permission to use our like style of like the animation.
Yeah.
And I thought that was crazy.
Bro, but that's even more reason why I feel like the United States government needs to implement new blood and younger faces into the fucking government, because I feel like all these older people aren't keeping up with the new technology that's coming out. Before, when we were younger, I feel like I was like, we're like 30, 40, 50 years away from any of this being a reality. When in just 1 year, like you were talking about the Will Smith eating spaghetti, in just 1 year, we've seen such a huge jump in technology. I feel like it's about fucking time that we have like laws around this. Like it's not a fear mongering thing if if it was anything else, if it was literally anything else that was doing this in past decades, I feel like we would have implemented laws. I have no idea why they're lagging on it now.
I think, unfortunately, I know this is gonna sound a bit bleak. I personally think it's too late. I think there should still be regulation, and we should keep pursuing that. But I think it's far too late. I think it's already. I think it should have happened as it was being created, and I think the people who made this should be kind of held responsible. Because, like, if you think about, like, the stuff we've used, right? Like, was it Bing AI? Where they have blocks, right? Like if you put in a prompt that's obviously, like, not safe or sounds kind of bad, it'll block you. So to me, that suggests that the people who made this understood that this could be used for negative ways, and they still made it anyways. Yeah. And sure, like, I understand when people are like, oh, but it can be a tool. And I agree, it can be a tool. Like, think about a lot of the creative ventures, right? Let's say I want to make a movie and I want to make some really good concept art, but I'm not an artist. I can't afford to hire a concept artist. I could make some concept art to sell my movie. That could really help me. But I feel like without regulation, the consequences, for me at least, outweigh the benefits because there's no regulation. So now, like that with the Spider-Verse people, right? They didn't even ask. You can just hijack anybody's art styles. You can do whatever you want with it. Like with Taylor Swift, you can make obscene images of people without their permission. And it doesn't even have to be celebrities anymore. Like, people were bringing up on TikTok, like, people were saying, should people rethink being on the internet now? Because if you're on the internet, like, people can do what they want with you now, the AI. And to me, the part that always gets me is it's indistinguishable to some degree now from real life. And give it another year, I feel like you're going to probably have to develop AI to distinguish what's real and what's not, And there's a lot of, like, I think really interesting subsections of conversation that brings up, because a lot of people bring it up in memes, but I felt it was pretty impactful what people were bringing up. It was a joke, but I think a lot of the TikTok jokes that I've seen is me standing in court looking at the indistinguishable AI video of me committing a murder that I never did. Obviously, a little funny at the moment. Yeah. But that could happen. Like, I'm sure somebody already put that into a prompt, I don't know. How are we going to tackle that? Yeah. Like, what makes anything real at that point if I can't tell it apart,
You see, I disagree. I don't think it's too late. I don't think as long as there's time that it's never too late. As long as the world hasn't fucking ended, it's never too late. I think that you kind of hinted and you were, like, walking around what is probably most likely going to happen is that if the government truly wants to shut it down, it's going to have to develop AI to counter AI. It's going to be an AI counter system. And you know what else is crazy that you made me think about is when you said that the Bing one already has systems to where you can't have anything that's too obscene. And then, I don't know if you heard about it, but Twitter is also going to start adding in its next update, it's going to automatically sense when there's an AI image, and it's going to put text on it that says this is an AI generated image or this AI generated video. And I guess what that makes me think is that, like, that just shows even more how fucking dumb the government is. And I don't know, maybe they're going to blow my head off right now. But the fact that the fucking companies themselves are better at regulating this shit than the actual government, who's supposed to, supposed to be justice and peace and supposed to give us the pursuit of happiness of life. The fact that it's companies who seem to be the ones who are starting to regulate life, especially when what we were just talking about with the Coca Cola thing, it sucks that the more and further we move into the future, the more it seems like companies are the ones who actually control like livelihood, and governments are just there.
But here's the thing why I disagree with your disagreement, respectfully, is the reason I think it's too late is I think AI is the new nuclear bomb. And I think it's only a matter of time before it shows up on that level as a nuclear bomb, because where my mind went was, I personally think the government already knows about this and is completely on it. And the reason I don't think it cares is because it sees it as a use to its advantage, right? So let's say you can make a video that's indistinguishable from real life. I think people always get technology that's slightly lesser than what the government has militaristically. Let's say the government wants to conduct a false flag. Hey, there's this video of these people attacking us. Like, we're not going to go in there and invade them. Hey, look at these peaceful protesters attacking police. Look at, we have it on video. we're not going to shut them down. You know, stuff like that. And that's what kind of scares me a little bit. And why I'm surprised more people aren't taking that avenue of concern. And then I think about like gun control, right? Gun control is a serious issue in this country. Not a damn thing has been done, like at all.
Yeah.
It's the number one killer of people of children, like beyond disease, beyond anything. It's gun violence. Not a damn thing has been done. So to me, I feel like because it has such a potential for harm and use for people in power, and because these companies own the government, I really don't think that we're going to see the regulation we want. I feel like if there was going to be regulation, it had to have happened while it was being developed. You know what I mean?
I agree, but I agree to that sense of that, like, because it should have been done earlier. That's what I agree on. I still disagree because with the same thing that it's like the nuclear bomb. How right now we're at a permanent war. We're in the forever war, right? If you don't know what that means, it basically means that because everybody has nukes, nobody's gonna use nukes.
Yeah.
So I imagine that it might cross the same boundary with AI. Is that because all governments have AI? Maybe one government's like, I'm not gonna use AI because I don't know what the repercussions are gonna be from them using AI. And I imagine that could be a stalemate too, of why it doesn't really like at least get used to that extent. I was for some reason thinking like, but I could see the government using it as like, oh, we're getting invaded by aliens. Let's put $1 million into fucking space travel. You know, I see it for stuff that is less conflict and more of like trying to get our budget to be a certain type of way.
Yeah.
That's what I see it, which is still bad, but it's not at least like doomsday bad. Because I mean, especially our former President Trump, when he created the fucking Space Command, or what is it called?
The Space Force?
The Space Force?
Yeah.
You know, like, obviously there was nothing that really got people to want to go into, like, get behind that, invest in that. But if you can generate an AI image that's so real of, like, oh, my God, I think there's life on fucking Jupiter, then you can get millions of dollars, which is a lot easier than trying to fight another country.
But, like, to add on, I'm not so much disagreeing. It's just more like my thought process. It's more like the reason I also think it's probably this should have happened a lot earlier and why I think it's too late is I think it's too deep of an existential question. I think with a lot of other stuff we've encountered, yes, there's existential questions in them, like nuclear bombs. There's a lot of existential questions in that, right? And you can watch Oppenheimer. They introduce those themes. But with this, I feel like it's an existential question that's a lot further than people have really ever had to kind of face, at least in my opinion. Like, because it brings up a lot of things. What's real anymore? What's art anymore? Like, genuinely, I don't know what we're going to do when it comes to, like, law and evidence. Like, I just think of, like, the corruption that could happen is, like, we have video evidence. Like, you want us to use our AI to prove that it's not video evidence? Oh, we got a bootleg one we can use to prove that it's evidence, you know? Stuff like that. And the government's not shy about that. I don't want to, but I can name a bunch of stuff where the government has kind of flat out just been like, yeah, we did that, but what are you going to do about it?
Yeah, but I guess, like, I don't see it it's different. Okay, yes, it's different, but at least on a conceptual level, it's similar. Cops have planted evidence, faked evidence that existed before AI. And this isn't to dismiss that, like, obviously any fears of AI, like, fake evidence is non-existent. But I think that if people want to basically blackmail or want to, like, what's the word, like, false imprison someone, they're gonna find any means. They could do it
for sure. But I think before there was avenues to prove that there was a lot easier ways to prove what was going on. But I think when you hit a point where what you have is indistinguishable from reality to the average Joe, what do you do there? Like, genuinely, what does the population do when you're encountered with stuff that, like, I genuinely can't tell you if that's real or not? And that's why, like, for me right now, it's crazy because it's like, this has only been 1 year of development. Imagine 10 years with companies like Disney. Like, I mean, you talked about Coca Cola. That's a carbonated drink, and they managed to use propaganda to make the indigenous people believe that that's a sacred drink. Like, and that's a fizzle. That's Coke. Like, that's just a soft drink. Now this, something that's so powerful where people can like we brought it up. People can make fake porn. People can make. I mean, I even saw like a Reddit thing where they talked about like, what is AI gonna do to identification? Like, I don't know. I'm not too familiar with Reddit, but there's this, I guess, this identification thing of like, you take a picture of yourself with your Reddit username to prove that you're real. And somebody did that with an AI, and it tricked everybody. Like, nobody knew that the person was fake. And it's this picture of a girl. I thought it was real, and she's holding up her Reddit username like this, and it fooled everybody. Like, everybody was like, oh, that's a real person, you know? And to me, this is, in my opinion, just the tip of the iceberg. I don't think it's so much fear-mongering. I just think the fact that there's so many avenues of wrong that it could go and already has gone, I wish, you know, the whole world would just pause for a second and be like, wait a minute, guys, we should probably take a look at this. Yeah. Because I think even if everybody was to look at it now, the amount of time it takes to actually do something about it, you know?
Yeah, it takes a while, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, look, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I feel like, cause I keep being like, I'm in the middle. Like, I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, it could be late, could not. But now I feel like in a way it, like, kind of how you said about like gun control. Yeah. Like, it's kind of like they're not going to make laws because I feel like nobody's taking it as serious. Because I feel like if you see on social media, like, people always joke about like AI and like people freely use it. Like, like I remember when people started making like profile pictures of themselves through AI, I think like last year, and it was everywhere. And I remember I was like, I thought people were so opposed to AI, but like now all of a sudden everyone's using it. Yeah. And I feel like, I think that's why for a while, I don't think there's really going to be anything implemented into it. And I think it also goes back to like, it's fake, right? Like, why would you kind of like hold something accountable if it's fake? Like, why do you like consider it? Because it reminds me of something that happened where I think people made another like deep fake of somebody. Yeah. And she called the cops about it. She was like, hey, like, they're doing this. And the cops were kind of like, well, it's fake. So just like block them. Like, you just do that. And she's kind of like, but it's affecting, like, people think it's real. But they were telling her, like, no, it's fake. Like, you can just block them and just ignore it. And then it's kind of like that. Like, people are just shooing it off because it's fake, right? Because it's, like, it's not a real thing. And I think that's why it's even harder to kind of regulate it. And I think that's why even more, like, people aren't, I guess, paying much attention to it. I mean, I feel like the government is pretty well aware of it. They just don't really care about it that much to like take the seriousness of it and like how it's really affecting people.
Yeah, that's do you want to speak?
Just real quick, like, the expression I really like that I guess recently heard, so I'll regurgitate it, is it's like putting toothpaste back in a bottle once you've squeezed it. I feel like, sure, it's not too late to put the cap back on, but that toothpaste that came out, you can't put it back in. And I think about that country that it switched to Bitcoin as their currency. I think for me, it's like, even if we do it here, like if like in a fantasy world, the United States government and everybody in this country agreed on one thing and we all like put a pause in it, that doesn't mean the rest of the world's going to give a fuck. Yeah. You know, they're like, oh, who cares? That shit's awesome, you know? So that's more what I mean in that sense, where it's like, I think if there was ever going to be like a pause or like, this is what we should do, this is what we shouldn't do, it should have happened forever ago, you know?
Yeah, but I guess I was just going to say that I think the hopeful optimism that takes into account everything that you're saying isn't, when I say it, it's not going to sound hopeful or optimistic, but I think it is that unfortunately, I think that everything you're saying is completely true, but I think that an event like that has to occur in order for real change to actually happen. Yeah. Like, I think, like you said, you're right. People aren't taking it seriously. Even us talking about this, I don't think to the extent of, like, if an event happened, right? It took 9/11 for them to start implementing security into all of, like, the airports across the United States. You know, even though we haven't solved our problems with gun issues, we've done a lot to at least try to remedy it, right? And it took horrific events, to have that. And unfortunately, I think it's going to be the same with AI. I think a horrific event is going to have to happen in order for there to actually be ways to fix AI. It could be anything. Right now, we probably can't even imagine it because we haven't encountered it. It could be like all cameras in the United States legally have to have this chip in it where it says that this proves that anything filmed on this device is real. And if evidence from a data file is taken and it does not have that code, it means that it was generated somewhere else.
Yeah.
You know, there's like a billion ways to, I guess I can see you could regulate AI, but I don't see it happening, unfortunately, until something shows people that this is a genuine threat.
Yeah.
You know?
No,
'Cause
for sure. I completely agree. And I 100% think that's what's gonna happen. Is something bad is gonna happen, and then everybody's like, "Oh shit, we should have taken this more seriously." Now we'll do it.
And then you'll be like, I told you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I guess moving on to like that was more setup of what I actually want to talk about.
Are you serious?
Well, this won't be that long.
Okay, no worries. Even if it was.
I guess moving towards the more existential, like I said earlier, I think my interpretation of what AI was gonna be was, it's gonna not listen to our directives, or people are gonna use it in the military. It's gonna operate drones, or it'll replace doctors, because why would you pick a human doctor over a perfect doctor who's never gonna make any mistakes, has 100% track record of healing you? But I think it's so fascinating that it went straight for art. And I wonder if that was purposeful, because I think a lot of people associate art with being human and being conscious, being conscious. I think a lot of people, because I think that's even in that movie, that Will Smith movie, Artificial Intelligence.
iRobot?
Well, doesn't he say something like that? Like, can you stare at a piece of
Oh,
art?
yeah.
And can you, like, interpret something like that?
Wait, I could say.
What does he
Like,
say?
can you create a beautiful symphony or make a masterpiece with a paintbrush? And then the AI responds, can you?
Yeah.
And then Will Smith's like,
Yeah, he gets back. But the answer is it can now. Like, I've seen a lot of the AI art, and it's, like I said, indistinguishable.
Yeah.
So I think it's an interesting avenue for people to cross to now. We're probably going to have to redefine what art is. We're probably going to have to redefine what consider is real. And that's a concept I didn't think I'd ever even meet in my lifetime. I thought maybe I'd be checking out of this world by the time that was going to happen. But, and a lot of people bring this up. I actually saw on TikTok there's this company in Tasmania. It's the island off of Australia. It's called Tasman AI, and it's their art AI. So basically what they do is you insert a prompt, and a real artist will select their favorite prompt and make you real art. And if they like your art, they'll draw it for you, and they'll send it to you for you to have. So that was that country's way. I don't know if is Tasmania a country?
Tasmania? I know it's a cartoon character.
That's that area's way of combating artists getting their jobs taken. Because I'm surprised artistry is the first avenue that is being attacked, I guess. So I guess I started really thinking about, like, well, what makes something art? I don't know. That's a really broad concept. And so I, of course, went to the philosophers, right, to see if they'd ever pondered. Of course they have, right? So I actually watched 3 college lectures on this, and I still had a hard time understanding it. I watched a 7-minute college lecture. I watched a 17-minute college lecture. And then I watched one part of a 3-part hour college lecture.
Wait, hold up. You didn't watch them, bro. You sat your ass down and listened.
Yes, I did. I did, actually. So there was a few of philosophers that, I found interesting. I think Plato and Socrates were one of them. But the one I kind of just was gravitating towards was Heidegger. Have you ever heard of Heidegger?
Mm-mm.
Well, his thing, he just wrote, like, I think it's called The Origin of the Art. So he talks about what art is, and it's really, I had a hard time understanding it. But his thing is very much like outside of art, is he talks a lot about like people, and people as a unique species, and that we're the only animals that can contemplate our own death, and that makes us real. There's huge diaspora of stuff. But when I was looking into the origin of the art, right, he very much deep dives and dissects on what makes something art. So he says something along the lines of, in order to know what art is, an artwork is, you have to go to the artist. But in reality, what makes something an artist? If I just go like this on a piano, does that make me a musician? No. So in reality, art itself as a concept defines what an artist is and what artwork is. So it's kind of like this cyclical nature. And he talks about how, like, in order to understand art, you have to understand the artwork. And that helps you better understand the art, which helps you understand artwork. So it's this cyclical nature. And he talks about how that's inherently sounds kind of flawed. But he says that's purposeful because it's kind of like thinking, which he argues is art in itself, because it's just this never-ending cycle of understanding. So the crux of all of this, of what he kind of, at least, I apologize if I get it wrong, but what he's saying is that for him, art is a mode of revealing truth. It's a vessel that describes essence. So for him, right, like, he uses Vincent van Gogh's, it's like a painting of peasant shoes. He says, well, at face value, right, that's just shoes, right? But the art is telling you the truth, like what that actually is, the truth. And I think the interpretation that some of these professors has was like, oh, this art represents reliability and allegories and symbolism. So the crux for Heidegger, at least, is that art is a vessel of truth. And I think that's interesting coming from AI when I'm talking about what is true and what's real anymore. So I don't know. What do you guys think?
Well, I think by that definition, doesn't that make AIs artists in themselves?
I don't know. I genuinely don't know. It was really confusing to me.
I feel like I was trying to get what you were saying, and I'm like,
I don't know.
It just keeps going in a circle.
Well, like I said, the basis of what he's arguing is that art is a medium for revealing truth, right? So I don't know if Bad Bunny.
I think so.
If Bad Bunny writes a song, right, you know that the lyrics have an allegory or symbolism, right? It's saying like, oh, this is how I felt actually when this girl broke up with me. He's not actually saying whatever his lyrics say, right? So in reality, that music is a vessel for revealing his truth. Just like in lots of stuff, like in movies, right? You can watch Star Wars and be like, well, the surface level, that's about a boy, becoming the Jedi or whatever. I don't really like Star Wars. But then there's the deeper allegorical symbolism, which is a critique on imperialism and the United States and Vietnam, So he's just basically saying that art is a vessel for truth,
I think it's true. I think that in a weird way, AI art is art, but I think that the truth is that it is AI. I think a generated image, if you generate an image, let's say a dog eating a hot dog, right? What it is on face value is that it's a dog eating a fucking hot dog. But in reality, the truth is that no, it's being used on an advanced computer by a human in a society where we've developed AI, and now it's taking over our artwork, and we're having debates about what truly makes something artistic. It's just a fucking hot dog. It's just a dog eating a fucking hot dog, but it has layers to it because it isn't made by a human. So I think in a weird way, AI art is art. Like if 100 years just suddenly like flew by in the snap of a fingers, and we looked at all AI art, it would be deep because we would think about like, wow, these were all made at this time period when everybody was worried about what AI was gonna destroy. And look at the way it looked, because it doesn't. All AI art, at least as it stands right now, some of it looks real, but for the most part, you can tell when something's AI.
Yeah.
Because we naturally have uncanny valley, so we can tell there's something up with it, at least how it is now. Yeah. And I think those imperfections is really enough what makes it art.
Yeah.
Because the computer is trying to reach perfection that doesn't exist.
Well, I think if I had to give my take, like my personal opinion, this is not something I found. This is not.
Yeah.
This is just.
What does Brandon think?
Yeah. I think a lot of people have, I'm assuming, a problem with AI generated art is that it's very easy, because I think personally a lot of people find a lot of meaning in the struggle of art. Like if I was to paint like a very detailed portrait of you, that's hard to do. That takes a lot of time. So I think for a lot of people, the difficulty, the work, the struggle is an intrinsic part of what it means to make art.
Yeah.
But if I was to like generate me a picture of Julie, what did I do? Like, what did I do? Yeah. And I think that's where people have a hard time wrapping their minds around. Like in the same way of like writing a screenplay, right? That's really hard to do. Like it's about how I express myself. It's about, it's like maybe even like hammering like a statue out of stuff. Yeah. I think the process for a lot of people is a huge intrinsic part of what it means to make an art. But when you remove that struggle or that, for a lot of people, it feels very hollow. Yeah. Like it's just like, it's more just the idea than the action, So, yeah.
That's why I feel like because right now when you were like, I feel like AI art is art, But I feel like, to me, I don't think AI art is art, because I feel like there's no deeper meaning. Like there's like, because I feel like, I don't know, I've never seen like actual AI art, but I feel like the art it would look nice, but I feel like there's no like deeper meaning to it, as in like it doesn't invoke like some type of feeling deep inside you. Because I feel like most art, like I'm just thinking about like music, right? Like you feel that, you get emotional, right? You think about like these things. And I feel like the way you were kind of describing it, it didn't feel like, yeah, I get it. Like there was, it tells you about a time, right? Of like the AI and all these things. But I feel like sometimes specific art kind of like makes you feel some type of way, like emotionally and like deeper in you, which is why I feel like AI art isn't actually art, because there's no deeper meaning of like the human experience of like what they kind of felt while creating that art.
Interesting.
You know?
I like that.
And I think that's why for me, I don't think AI art is art. Like, because it just doesn't like, because you know how we say robots don't feel, like they don't have emotions. I think that's how I feel about like AI. Like they would know what to draw if you tell them like what to do, but I feel like they don't. It's not as deep in the fact that they don't feel that. Like
I get you.
There's
you
not
know?
an emotional engine behind it.
Yeah, like there's like it's hollow. It's like there's nothing.
soulless.
Yeah.
You know what is interesting that I wanted to bring up? Did you guys see the AI art that did go viral? That did touch a lot of people's feelings?
Which one?
I think you probably have heard about it. I'm pretty sure you haven't. So it went viral. It literally had like millions of views. It was everywhere. It was trending. It starts off. What's weird is that I think it caught people by surprise. So it's when, you know how on TikTok you could slide through pictures.
Yeah.
So they asked an AI, draw me.
Oh yeah.
Draw me a pancake that's worth $1. Draw me a pancake that's worth $10, and it goes all the way to like 1,000,000. Draw me a pancake that's worth like $1,000,000, and then on the last slide, before you slide on the last text box, they ask AI, draw me a priceless pancake.
Yeah.
And then you slide, and it's this image of this family laughing and having breakfast and enjoying a pancake together. And it literally went fucking viral. And people talked about how you could almost like document it as it's the first AI art that genuinely touched people. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
It went mega viral. It was everywhere. There was like a bunch of people trying to copy the success by making like, oh, draw me a priceless like tortilla or some shit. Yeah, but there was nothing like the same of the AI
Original.
pancake. Look it up.
Yeah.
It kind of does touch you in a weird way. That's why I'm like, I guess I bring that up because I still agree that there's no emotional basis to it. But because of that, because you asked the AI, like, draw me a priceless pancake, I guess nobody really expected that.
Yeah.
And that's technically the AI's own, like, if you want to say opinion on what a priceless pancake looks like. And it drew a family enjoying a pancake on a morning. And I think that's what I think about, is that I know, like, AIs and robots don't have souls. And even there's fucking people who are living and breathing who some people don't even see them as actual humans, if you know what I mean. So it feels almost insensitive to say that computers and these AIs have souls. I just think about the fact that they are a human creation, and somehow we were able to create something that was able to create art that moved millions of people.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's at least cause for something. You don't have to give the credit to the AI or the robot, but whatever was created, it was at least created with some sense of understanding humanity. And I feel like, to me, that is deep. That's like extremely deep. But I get you guys. I get
for sure. I'm just posing the question. I just think, because even Heidegger acknowledges that it can get metaphysical and pretty like non-tangible pretty quickly when you talk about this stuff. That's why I found it really confusing, because he does that thing. I don't know if a lot of philosophers do this, when there's like, well, what is art? Well, first we have to define what is, and then like, he does that, and so I'm literally like, oh my god, man, this is hard to follow.
That's funny.
Yeah,
I could describe at least my argument right now that I brought up is kind of that, like, well, what even is language?
Well, because he does that. He says like arts are things, and we have to define the thingly, and what is an origin? We have to define the origin, which he's being thorough. But
that's so fucking funny though. What even is what?
Yeah. But I think, like I said, I think it gets metaphysical really quickly
Yeah.
for a lot of people because I think
Yeah.
a lot of people, when it comes to art, they're like, oh, well, I poured my heart and soul into it.
Yeah.
And so when they have something that they feel is soulless making something,
They're like,
it's
that's
kind of
not art.
well, it's hard for them to swallow because it's like a difficult conversation. But
yeah.
I feel that.
that's all I have to say about that.
That's cool. That was a beautiful segment. It actually was kind of on theme with my segment because it was like about big corp and I guess like propaganda dystopia. So
Yeah.
I like that. Julie,
Bring it
So-
you
on.
have the floor.
Speaking of art,
Oh, really?
did you guys see the graffiti towers?
Yes,
Yes, I
sir.
have.
In
Downtown LA.
Yes, I have.
Did y'all see how viral it went though?
Yes, sir. People from out of state came to visit the towers.
I know,
Yeah.
that's crazy.
Can you give me the context behind it?
So basically,
She's like, no.
so
I don't know.
basically, there's these luxury towers that were, I think they were gonna be condos, and I think it was either between 30 to 40 like flights of it, like basically.
Yeah.
So what happened is that there was a company who was building them in 2015, and then a year later they ran out of money. So then they stopped working in like 2019 after the company went out of business, so they just stayed there.
Yeah.
And so basically what started happening is that, you know, they were just there. So people were like, fuck it, let's just tag it up. So then they just tagged the whole thing. And basically it's like, I think it's like when I've been there, because I work in like downtown, so I pass by it all the fucking time. And you could see people, which is funny. Like you just see people that are there just to see the towers,
Yeah.
which I find interesting because I'm like, I'm still trying to understand what's super like intriguing about them. But I understand that it's like, it's 40, like it's high up there and the whole area is like graffitied.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, so people just like really tagged it up. I think like a week ago, somebody actually parachuted off the building.
Jesus.
And so that's when they started talking about more about like it's dangerous, like they need to like lock it all up and shit because people are still sneaking in. So it's just that it's just like people recently have been like tagging it up because it was like unfinished and like empty units for years. And so people were just like, you know what, it's here, let's just tag it up. And people just tagged it up. Like I think big artists like taggers have been like tagging it up. I didn't really like look into who it's been. But yeah, and so it's really significant because it's like it just goes back to how there's just a lot of like cities that have ghost like housing and ghost towers, where they just built and nothing like actually happens with them, or people can't afford to live in them, right? I looked a little more into it, and so the LA City Council approved nearly $4 million in city funds for the unfinished Oceanwide Plaza towers in downtown LA that have been in the spotlight since photos of it graffitied exterior went viral weeks ago. So 1.1 million of the city's funds will go to the fence off the property, while 2.7 million will fund security and removal of the graffiti tagging on about 30 floors of the tower.
I'm so glad you mentioned that. I was worried you weren't gonna mention it. Isn't that fucking insane? They basically dedicated $4 million to remove the graffiti.
Yeah.
$4 million? Who's running this fucking city, bro? Literally, look at the amount of potholes that we have. And I'm not a conservative. Obviously, I live in Los Angeles. I am live and breathe Los Angeles. But I can admit that there's so much funds that we should be using for so many of our other problems that we have. We don't even have a functional, I mean, we do have a functional, but we don't even have an elite level of public transportation. And we're going to use $4 million to clean up a building that hasn't even been used since it started in 2015. It's been almost 10 years and they haven't finished it. And you know what else is crazy? Is that because I live in Los Angeles City, I knew about those towers for years. In 2019, I knew this YouTuber group who was going to sneak into there and they wanted me to videotape it. But I'm a good boy, so I was scared. I was like, no, I don't want to sneak in. But they showed me the videos of when they stuck in there. So those buildings have been not only like they started a long time ago, they've been abandoned for years. And it's interesting that we're talking about the art, right? Because artistically, what does that say? Tagging, right? Tagging is an underground, street level phenomenon that's in Los Angeles that lies in between vandalism and art, right? I think it's more art than it's vandalism. Yeah. But what does that say? That buildings that were meant for people who were wealthy and upper class were tagged and were became this like phenomenon of people wanting to come visit. Because I think that's why people want to visit it. It's because I think it touches people the same way any art does, is that it's deep. It's talking about how in Los Angeles we have such a big housing crisis, and yet we fucking destroy or we vandalize. We show our anger about these wealthy rooms, these wealthy buildings, and Los Angeles does the fucking dumbest thing ever and thinks like, oh, let's put more money into it. Let's waste more fucking money into
Well,
it.
yeah, because it's like, well, like you said, the housing crisis, right? And then there's these giant luxury, basically hotels sitting there collecting dust. And they're like, oh, we don't know where we're going to put any homeless people or people without homes, you know? And so that's why I think, like you said, the tagging was very impactful for a lot of people because it was a sign of, I guess, rebellion, you know?
Yeah, I agree.
What's the word? Not outrage, but frustration. Frustration for with the way the city kind of handles that kind of thing. And like you said, $4 million to get rid of all of that, $2 million to fence it off. Does it? I don't even know that it would take $2 million.
Yeah,
to do
it's
that.
1.1 million just to fence it off, and then 2.7 million to fund security and the removal of the graffiti tagging.
For real, bro. I could
From the
hire
city?
my fucking uncles to do that shit for like $75.
So what's also crazy was the fact that like, so this is all just to go back to like the LA City Council, right? They're giving $4 million. And what I ended up finding out is that like there was this guy, I forget his name. His name was, I think, like Jose Husuar. I don't know how to say his last name. But he was recently sentenced for accepting payoffs, bribes, and other grafts from developers in exchange for fast tracking big projects. So basically, the company that was originally like having that building, they had some type of relation, and you know, like they have to like get approved by the city to build a tower. And if you hear that like they were being bribed and paid out to like kind of be like approved of it, then like it makes sense whether there's so many like buildings, because it's like they're the people who were in the city council and who approve it were getting paid off.
That's so stupid. Then it's literally an illegal building that apparently got illegally vandalized. So all that entire building should just be fucking deconstructed. Just destroy that shit. Make actual fucking housing for people who live in the States.
Yeah. But what I had also found is that like since the company went out of business, they don't really know or like can contact anyone to kind of like fix it up, because it's like the company went out of business. Like they've been trying to find the people who were behind it, and they can't really like find them.
So it's
just it's legit abandoned. Like it's like the company went out of business. Like there's no money.
But I guess my question is like, because I'm not too familiar with how real estate and all that works. So because the company that made it went out of business, it's kind of just in this deadlock of they can't do shit with it. It's just kind of stuck there being nothing.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because I was like, who will finish the building? And the article was like, it's unknown. Because the city has not been able to find anyone associated with the developers that began construction in 2015 and ran out of money 3 years later, and then work stopped in 2019 after the company went out of business. So that's it. Like, it's abandoned. Like, no one's really, which is weird because I remember it also came out that, like, they're funding for, like, the cleanup and everything, and they're going to bill someone for that specific building. But I'm like, how do you bill someone if they don't have the ownership of it?
You bill the citizens, bro. That's what it is.
Well, yeah, it's our tax money, you know?
We pay for it, is what they're saying.
No, yeah.
Easy.
So, but yeah, to go back to like what you were saying about like how like it's intriguing in like LA, right? Like graffiti, it's part of like
it's a symbol of LA, yeah. It's frustration.
Somebody had said, if the owners aren't doing anything about it, the streets of LA are happy to make something out of it. Which is why, you know, it's like graffitied. And a lot of people, you know, were just saying, like, it's capitalism's failure to critically tend to a city's housing needs. You're going to run out of money someday. So, but yeah, I just thought that was crazy because, like, I thought it was crazier because, again, like, I walk there every single time I go to work. And I remember when it first came out and, like, I would see people post about it, right? And I finally went to work when it like finally was happening. And the fact that I would see like police officers like parked near the building, like everywhere, like in every single corner. And to me, I was like, well, they're also funding that, right? The 2.7 million is part of like security or whatever. And so then they're getting overtime. They're adding more patrols to the area. And like cars are parked like basically in every corner. And most of them are just sleeping or they're on their phones, which I thought was funny. I was like, they're just here. They're just chilling.
They don't give a fuck either.
They don't really like care about it either as much, which is also funnier because I'm like, so the amount of people that are patrolling, there was a guy who was able to sneak in and parachute off the building. I was like, so where's the high security that you guys are paying for? But since February 1st, 18 people have been arrested on suspicion of various offenses like tagging, breaking in, trespassing, you know. But yeah, people were saying, especially about the the parachute part, they're like, we're in the real life GTA, which I thought was funny.
Yeah, well, I think that's another part that's interesting of why, like, if I didn't live in LA, I'd be interested to go see it because it's very rare that you see a huge skyscraper basically get completely tagged up and graffitied.
Yeah,
Like that's just like more of an admiration of the art of like, wow, that's the coordination. Yeah.
Well, go ahead.
No, but I was just gonna say, like, it's the fact that like nobody cared about the building so much that they completely just covered the whole thing. Like, there's not a single part of there that's empty. Like, every single side of it is pretty much graffitied. And it wasn't until, like, it went viral that they finally, like, the city, I guess, started finally paying attention to it. And we're like, because it's been since, like, 2019, right? And, like, or, like, 2015. And, like, it was just there, you know?
Well, I imagine the city gives a fuck because it's a bit embarrassing and a bit hurtful to their egos.
Well, now it is.
No? Well, I guess that was kind of my question was, why do they give a fuck? I was like, are they hoping somebody, like, another business steps in and buys it and turns it into finishes it and is like turns it into like luxury so that rich people and celebrities will move in there? Is that why they care?
I mean, I for sure think that's a part of it, but I also think that if I put myself in the shoes of the people who work for the city, and no bias because I'm a citizen, if I was somebody in there and I had this elite luxury skyscraper that's been around almost 10 years and then just overnight millions of people all over the country see that it's been tagged up and graffitied, how embarrassing is that? Because it means that not only did I have low security, it also shows the rest of the country that my city has abandoned buildings that are so easy to break into and it's so easy because it wasn't like, oh, they graffitied like one strain, like Steve was here, right? It was this beautiful piece of artwork that took probably hours to make, and suddenly somehow nobody had a clue, somehow nobody saw it. And somehow it's that empty and it has been that empty long enough to where they're able to coordinate this. Because this wasn't just like, oh, let me get my friends and this night we should just do it. Yeah, it was definitely like there was a lot of planning that had to go into doing that. They had to have coordinated it. They had to have spent weeks, days thinking of what they were going to do. And it goes to show you just the how sloppy, I guess, our city council and people who run the city really run it, you know. And at least if I was somebody who was part of the city, I would be fucking embarrassed that they did that. So of course they give a fuck. Of course they're gonna immediately fence it off and clean it off because they're like, that's embarrassing. That a huge monument of our failure is just sitting there, taking up fucking dust.
And what's crazy, because even like for me personally, like, again, like I walked through there for the past 3 years. And I never, like, paid attention to it. Like, I always knew it was there. And I always saw it as being unfinished. Because I remember when I started working there. And, like, I started working there in 2019. So they were still kind of, like, doing something to it. And then, you know, pandemic happened. So, like, nothing was really, like, happening. And then I came back in, like, 2021, 22. And, like, I still always pass through that building. Like, I always walk through it. Or, like, pass through it. And I never noticed it until recently when it went viral that, like, it had been graffitied. And, like, I never really, like, saw it as anything. I just saw it as, like, an unfinished thing until it was like, bro, like, there's, like, this whole thing of, like, it's been abandoned for so many years and nobody's actually fixing it. I low-key always thought, maybe I did see people because I always felt like somebody was constructing something up there. Yeah. So like for me, I was just like, I think they still are. I feel like I remember when it was like there was nothing there, and then all of a sudden there was towers.
Yeah.
And then yeah, until recently, like this year, it like started happening. Like
Yeah. Well, do you know that a lot
up.
of those buildings, because it's not the only building that's like abandoned and is mid construction. You know the purpose for a lot of those buildings. You kind of guessed what it is. It's supposed to be an anti-gentrification tower. I don't know if have you ever heard about it? It's supposed to be like you're building these luxury suites, so that way people who move to Los Angeles and have a lot of money, they're like, oh, I'd rather live in these luxury streets than buy a house here in main POC communities. And it's supposed to kind of like fix that, so that way they don't bring up the rent, because housing crisis is huge in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
So that way they don't bring the rent in just like rural neighborhoods. But it failed spectacularly.
Yeah.
And now it's like a monument that the whole fucking country has seen.
Yeah. I just think it's crazy that they ran out of money. And like that's why they just stopped
They were like,
construction.
oops.
They're just like, oh, well, we're just gonna leave it there. And then they went out of business. Like they ran out of money. They were still trying, and then they completely just ran out of business. And like they just left it there.
It's kind of funny.
And like the city doesn't really do anything to kind of like be like, oh well, like I don't know, destroy it, because like now they don't have money or something. I don't know, like there's like no solution to it after of like the fact that they, because this, I mean, I feel like there might be a couple more unfinished or like even like ghost towers, you know, and there's nothing that is really done with them, you know.
What does city council even do, bro? Like, what are they putting
whatever the big corporations tell them to do, bro.
Oh, and that's how we tie it back. And that's our show. We'll see you. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, it's crazy, bro. LA really is a GTA server, and I think I'll leave it at that. Unless you guys have something else to say. No.
I was like, that shit was just crazy. That it's like, yeah, but I was really trying
Stop
to find
moving here. No, I'm just kidding.
Stop moving.
Yeah, what were you saying, Julie?
No, but that's why they're building them, bro. Because people keep moving here. No, just kidding.
Yeah, that's literally. It's kind of your guys' fault. No, I'm just kidding.
But that should be still expensive to live there.
Well, that's why it's for the gentrifiers. It's for people who have money to be able to live in the suites, so that way they don't buy a house like in. Oh, I was about to give away where we're at around our neighborhood, right? Let's say in people who move from Minnesota or something. No hate to Minnesota. What?
They still do though.
They still do.
They still, yeah.
They still do.
That main street, like, geez Louise, man. A lot of
yeah. Well, because I understand the concept. I just feel like nobody wants to spend that much money sometimes though. And I don't know. I feel like also outsiders think that downtown LA is pretty cool, so maybe they might move in there.
It is not. We have one of the ugliest downtowns.
Well, that's why. That's why I'm like, it wouldn't. Well, I don't know. I hate downtown. I hate being there. I hate.
It's
Hollywood.
a little cool, but there's a lot of human shit everywhere.
Yeah. Well, also because like I mean that specific building is right next to crypto.
Yeah.
If you
speaking of crypto.
Oh yeah.
Speaking
of crypto, guys, we're doing a live show at crypto.com arena on April 12th. That's a Friday, correct?
Yes.
I don't know.
If you guys want to pull up and meet us, want to hear us yap into you, but in 3D,
yes,
then you guys better pull up.
If y'all also want to see the towers that are right next to crypto.
if you're one of those people.
Y'all see the towers, y'all see us, and y'all see a Clipper game.
Yeah.
You see how we set that up?
Yeah. That was just a giant ad for our live show.
Literally.
Basically.
Yeah.
Well, by the time you guys see this, our tickets will have dropped already. Like, we'll have...
you guys will be known.
Yeah. I mean, unless... I don't know. Hopefully more than... I don't know. I would hope more than 25 people will buy by then.
But the first 25 do get an exclusive experience of
Yes.
high-fiving the players. So
yes. Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, Russell Westbrook, James Harden. Think of those guys. NBA greats, whether you're a Clipper fan or not. Which I'm not. But I still want to high-five those guys. So...
And then you come, look at the Kobe statue. It's really a celebration of Los Angeles.
Yes.
So you guys should definitely come by because it's in a beautiful venue. It's in a historic venue Crypto.com. Well, it's called Staples Center. So shout out to Staples Center.
Yeah.
And you know what? Fine. Because you guys are hosting us, Crypto.com Arena too.
Yeah.
I love you guys.
They're
Buy
gonna-
crypto today.
We're presented by the Clippers, technically, right, Julie?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You work for
Proudly
them, so you can say
presented.
that. So
Yeah.
It's genuinely really cool.
Yeah.
I feel like even if I didn't know us, I would just go.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
I suggest you guys all go.
Tickets start at $35. $35 for us, a Clipper game, and a chance to high five players. Come on, guys.
That's less than a full gram of a Stizzy cart. Come on.
Is it actually?
Yeah,
Very
I think a full
cool.
gram of Stizzy cart like 40
What can you
bucks.
buy with $35? Not a lot these
Yeah,
days.
not a lot.
But you can buy our fan experience.
But you know
So-
what? But an experience like this is priceless.
Mm.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Why don't we go ahead and give a shout out to our sponsors?
You mean our
They're
They're
Yeah.
basically
They're
basically
kind of
sponsoring
our
us.
sponsors. So shout out to Yoel, shout out to Jada Chicano, shout out to Daniel Villanueva, shout out to Angel Zamaran.
Let me see. Angel
Angel Zamaron.
Zamaron.
I hope I'm saying your name correctly.
We said it 3 times, so
Sound
hopefully that
off-
makes up for it.
Sound off in the comments with the what do you call it? The pronunciation. Give me
Yeah.
that.
Give me
Sarah-
a light roast. If
Sarah
I
without
pronounce
an
it wrong.
H, Carlos, and Steven Carbajal. Special shout out to Steven Carbajal. He gets a hand on the wall because he paid for the hand on the wall price.
Let me high five him.
Yeah. And that's going to go, I don't
That's
know.
cute.
It'll go right here. Right there, right on the refrigerator. So if anybody ever wants to join the Patreon, your patronage is always appreciated. Our link is always in the bio. But until then, we hope you guys enjoy this episode, and we'll see you guys next week.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.